In this video, I'm going to show you how to complete the Excel Guided Project 2-3. So let's begin. Step 1 says to open up the start file, and that's what you see right here. And before I move on, I'd like to say that it's best to use a downloaded version of the instructions. Even if you own a hard copy of the text and there are instructions in there, it's best to use the downloaded version, the version that comes with the start file. When you download the start file, you also have an option to download the instructions. These instructions are the latest and most up-to-date set of instructions, so it's best to use them if possible. Now let's move on. If your workbook opens up in the protected view, and you'll know it's in the protected view because you'll see a yellow bar across the top, simply double click the Enable Editing button, and this will allow you to edit the document. Next, if your instructor tells you to change the name of this project, now's the time to do that. Otherwise, you don't have to change the name. But I do highly recommend that you save your document right now. Save your file. And there are several different ways to do that in Excel. One way is to click on the little diskette button in the upper leftmost portion of the screen. Click on it, and that will save your file. And that completes step 1. Step 2. We're going to set range names for the workbook. So it says on the student loan sheet, and make sure you're on the student loan sheet. You'll know you're on the student loan sheet because it'll be down here. You can click on the other sheet if you like, but then make sure you toggle back to the student loan sheet. Very important that you're on that. In 2A, it says select cells B5 through C8. B5 through C8. And for most of these steps, I'm going to go very, very slowly because I really want to take my time. And I'm literally crossing off items on my printed, downloaded version of the instructions so I don't miss anything critical. Very important. In 2B, it says click the Create from Selection button. Let's head up to the Formulas tab. Somewhere in the center, you'll see Create from Selection. That's 2B. It says verify that the left column box is selected and that the top row isn't selected. If it was, you could deselect it. But everything on my computer looks good, so I click OK. And that completes 2D. Next, it says select cells E5 through F7. E5 through F7. Doing a quick double check to make sure that's the right range, and it is. It says repeat steps A through D to create range names. So I'm going to head back up here, create from selection, make sure that the left column is checked and not the top row. That looks good. So that takes care of 2E. In 2F, it says click the Name Manager button. You can see it right next to the Create from Selection button, Name Manager. You can see everything that's available to you. View the names. Take a look at them, and when you're done, click Close. And that will complete Step 2. Step 3, enter a PMT function. In 3A, I'm going to select cell C8. C8. And next, that completes step 3A. We're going to click on the Financial button, Formulas tab, Financial. And there are a lot of choices, folks. We need to select the PMT button. Next, we click the rate box. It's in the rate box right now. And we need to click cell C7. C7. And I do that. Once again, I'm going very slowly and I'm checking off each item so I don't miss anything. I'd hate to have to redo this. And then we type in divided by 12. That's slash. 12. Obviously that means 12 months, 12 monthly payments. That completes 3D. 3E. Going to click on the N per box and click cell C6. It's the loan term. Right after that, we're going to use the multiplication symbol and we're going to put in times, holding down the shift button, the time symbol, and then 12. Next, we're going to type in, this is 3G, we're going to type in into the PV box, click the PV box. We're going to type in the minus sign. It's going to set the argument as a negative amount. That's very important that you do that. Otherwise, your numbers will not come out the way that you'd like it. On 3H, I'm going to click on cell C5. C5. And that completes H. I, it said leave the FV and the type boxes empty, and I am going to do that. Click OK. And if you did it correctly, you should see $186.43 down in cell C8. And it should be a positive value. And that completes step 3. Step 4, create a total interest formula. So 4A says click cell F5. And I do that. In B, it says type the equal sign. Once again, I'm going very slowly here. I do not want to miss anything. And then it says click cell C8. It's the payment. And it'll say payment there if you do it right. That's 4B. In 4C, it says put the multiplication symbol there. And click cell C6. It's the loan term. That completes 4C. 4D says type in times 12. It's a good thing we're all good at math, folks. For 12 monthly payments. Next, in 4E, we're going to type a minus sign in immediately after the times 12. And lastly, we're going to click cell C5. This is the loan amount. And I'm just reading the instructions here, making sure that we've completed everything. If that looks good, I hit enter. And if you did it correctly, you should see the result of $1,185.81. And that completes step 4. Step 5. We're going to create the total principal formula and the total loan cost. Now this is similar to the previous step, but it's a little bit different, so you'll want to check off each step, each little step as you complete them. And I'm going to go very slowly here to help you out. In 5A, it says select cell F6. F6 is selected. Reading the instructions, making sure that there's nothing else I need to do. That completes step 5A. In 5B, it says type the equal sign. That always starts a formula, the equal sign. And then click cell C8. C8, that's the payment. That completes 5B. 5C says type the multiplication sign. My computer, I have to hold shift and then the multiplication sign. On your computer device, it may be different than that, but that's what I have to do to get that symbol. And then click C6. It's the loan term. Completes 5C, 5D. It says then type in multiplication symbol 12. 12 monthly payments. It's 5D. 5E, it says type a minus sign immediately after the times 12 to subtract. And that's what we did. We put a minus sign in there. Next, we need to click cell F5. Make sure it's F5, not anything else. F5, because we need the total interest. I'm just double checking the formula as it looks in the instructions. I like it, so I'm going to press enter. Okay, that completes 5G. In 5H, it says click cell F7. So I'm in F7 right here. Just click it to make sure I'm in there, but I'm in there. In step 5I, it says type an equal sign. Click cell F5. Type a plus sign. Click cell F6. Then press enter. And if you did it correctly, your screen should look like my screen right here, where you should see $11,185.81. And that completes step 5. Step 6, we're going to build an amortization schedule. So let me just scroll down here a little bit so you can see it in the middle of the screen, because we'll be working with these cells right about here. And once again, not necessarily a super challenging step, but there are a lot of little parts to it. So just follow along with the instructions, and hopefully you're beginning to understand what is happening. So in 6A, I'm going to click on B13, which is right here. That's 6A. 6B, let's type the equal sign. Beginning of a formula, pretty standard for Excel. We need to click F7 right up there and press enter. Now we need to change that to the accounting number format. A couple different ways to do that. You can head up to the Home tab in the center in the number grouping, and you can hit the More button right there to see all the choices. Click Accounting, and that'll put it in the right format. Keep that in mind, because we'll have to do that again in a few steps from now. Next, D. It says select C13, and we've done that. And I'm just reading the instructions here. Make sure there's nothing that I'm missing. In 6E, it says type equal sign and click B13. It's right next to it. Excellent. We need to type the multiplication symbol. Then we need to start the parentheses. Very important that we have the parentheses here. Going to click C7. It's right here, top of my screen. Next, we need to put in divided by 12. I'm just double checking to make sure that I'm doing it correctly before I close the parentheses. Looking pretty good. Going to close the parentheses. That is very important in this step. It will not work if you do not close the parentheses. That completes 6G. It says press the enter button, and we need to make that into the accounting numbers format. So I'm going to do the same thing up here. changes into something that we can understand and it's useful in this particular sheet. That's 6H. 6I. Click cell D13. Hopefully you see a pattern here, folks. And this portion of the payment that's applied to the principal is calculated by subtracting the interest portion from the payment, which, if you know anything about principal, that makes a lot of sense. That completes 6I. 6J. We're going to type the equal sign, start a formula, and then click C8, which is the payment. Going to put in the minus sign, click C13, and press enter. Looks good there. Next, in L, we need to click E13. Hang in here, folks, we're almost done with this step. The total payments is the interest portion plus the principal portion. That would be the total payment. In M, we're going to type the equal sign, click C13, C13, type the plus, then click D13. That looks good. Then I hit enter. And that value should match C8. And let me do a quick double check here. And yes, it does in fact. You can see it matches this right here. So that is great. Almost done. In N, step N, we need to select F13. Sure you figured that out already. Need to type the equal sign. Click B13. Type the minus sign. And then click E13. And then press enter. Doing a quick double check before I press enter. And you should get $10,999.38. Nice job, folks. That completes step 6. Step 7, fill data and copy formulas. Being able to fill data and copy formulas is very important. In fact, this is one of the main strengths of Excel. So pay attention here because there are a few features that you may not be aware of that can really speed things up. So the first thing that we're going to do is it says in 7A, select cells A13 through A14. It's only 2 cells, right? You're probably not thinking that's that big of a deal. But what it's going to do is when you use the fill pointer, that's in the lower right-hand portion, it looks like a skinny little plus sign. If I drag that all the way down to A72 and release it, you're going to see that it's going to increase each cell by 1 increment, which is a really quick way to fill data. You can also do that with days of the week, months of the year. If you type in Monday, say, and use the fill handle, it'll go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So this is a quick way to number things. That completes step 7B. 7C, it says select cell B14, which I will do right now. We're going to type in equal sign. This is 7D. Then click F13. And then press enter. Next, we're going to put the insertion point back on cell B14. And then we are going to, just double checking here, 7E, it says double click on the fill pointer. And it should fill all the way down to row 72, and it'll be 0 right now. There won't be any data in there right now until the rest of the schedule is complete, but that moves it all the way down. Next, we're going to do a very similar thing, but we need to select cell C13, and the colon sign means through. So through F13. So it's these cells right here. Then I'm going to double click the fill pointer. You can see how it fills in all of the data out to 60 months or down to row 72, however you want to think about that. And if we did everything right, the loan balance at the end here should be 0, which is a great thing. We don't want to pay interest whenever we don't have to. Okay, well, let's head back up to the top. So we're going to hold down the control button and then hit the home button. This will bring us up to the very top. And by the way, that control home works in other Microsoft programs such as Word. It brings you back up to the top of the document. Very powerful. So that completes step 7. Step 8, we're going to build a multiplication formula and then set the order of mathematical operations. Now this is very important. We need to now be on a different sheet, the fees and credits sheet. How do you do that? If you're not familiar with Excel, down towards the bottom, usually in the lower left-hand portion of the screen, you should see in this particular example 2 different tabs. You can click on them, and you can think of Excel like a real workbook that has different pages. I'm sure it was designed this way. In this case, there are 2 different pages, or they call them sheets, but they're really pages, and we're going to work on this particular sheet. Let me make this a little bit bigger so it's a little easier for you to see. Now let's begin with 8A. It says click on the fees and credit sheet tab and select cell F7. So I can see F7 right there. It's in the total fees column. Making sure I don't miss anything here. That completes step 8A. 8B says type the equal sign in and click C7. And I do that. Next, I type in the multiplication symbol and click D7. Then I click the multiplication symbol again and click E7 and then press enter. Before I press enter, one of the neat features about Excel, when you are selecting a range of data, it'll actually color code it for you. You can see C7 is blue here and it's blue here, red or orangish red there, and then purple right here. So it shows you exactly what you are selecting, what range, which is nice. I'm going to click enter. And it says no parentheses are necessary because the multiplication is done in left to right order. However, coming up, we're going to have to do the order of operations, so we'll throw things in parentheses. So let's head over to 8C. And we need to click G7. G7. And then I need to type the equal sign in here. We're down on step 8D. Then we need to click cell F7. Concentrate here, folks. You don't want to mess this up. Next, we need to type in exactly what we see in the instructions, the divided sign. And then we're going to start the parentheses. This is the order of operations area, so it's necessary that we have this parenthesis right here. Next, we need to click cell C7. Do that, type the multiplication symbol, then click D7. Just doing a quick double check to make sure that I'm on the right path here. It's looking pretty good so far, folks. Nice. Next, I'm going to type in the multiplication symbol. This is 8F, step 8F, multiplication symbol. Then it's saying click cell C20, which is down here, which is the average enrollments. And this is where you have to pay attention depending on what type of keyboard you have. If you have a regular keyboard like me, I simply can click the F4 button and it turns it into an absolute value. If you are on a laptop or another other device, you may not have that option. You may have to click the function key, which is probably found towards the bottom of the keyboard. It'll say FN. And then holding that down, you have to hit the F4 button, which should be up towards the top left-hand portion of your screen. So depending on your keyboard, that depends on how you do this. Next, I'm looking at it and then I press enter. You should get an error message. Let's make sure that we do. Good. Believe it or not, this is one of the few times that error message is good. So I'm reading in H, step H, it says click yes, and we will do that. In I, select cells F7 through G7. And it's just these two. We're going to double click the fill pointer to copy the formulas. Nice. And we're going to leave that selected right now, and we're going to format them as currency. So heading up to the Home tab, if you're not there, in the numbers grouping, let's make sure we select currency. Turns it into dollars and cents, which is good. And then lastly, since I'm going to click off of this, and you can see, hopefully you can see, you will on your computer, that there's not a bottom border here. So we need to highlight F18 and G18. And then on the Home tab, in the font grouping area, there's a border area. And if you click that little drop down, one of the choices, in fact, probably the first choice will be bottom border. I click that. Then I can click off of this and I can see that there's a bottom border on there and it looks cohesive. And that completes step 8. Step 9. We're going to use the SUMIF function. So let's head down to cell D26. Right here, total fees. And we need to find the Math and Trig button. I know that's up in the Formulas tab. A lot of different choices here, folks, but we're going to click Math and Trig. May have to scroll down a bit. It's down towards the bottom. There's a couple different sum functions, but let's choose the correct one, SUMIF. And that's looking pretty good. That completes 9B. We need to click inside the range box. It is in the range box. And we need to select cells A7 through A18. A7 through A18. Checking off that line. Next, we need to turn this into an absolute value. So we need to click F4 or function F4. My computer, it's just F4. And you know that it'll work because you'll see little dollar symbols before the letters and numbers. That means absolute cells. So that's good. Just double checking. 9D is complete. In 9E, we need to click the criteria box. We need to type in the word bio. And I do that. Next, we click the sum range box and select cells F7 through F18. Just going to move this over here. F7 through F18. Looking pretty good. Hit the F4 button on my computer. Once again, you may have to hit the function F4 depending on your computer device. That looks good to me. I click OK, and I should get 13,350 in there. And let's turn that into currency. Home tab, numbers group, the drop down up here, currency. Now it turns it into dollars and cents. And that completes step 9. Step 10, we're going to copy a SUMIF function and check formula errors. Going very slowly, in 10A it says select or click cell D26, and it's already selected for me. And I'm going to drag its fill pointer to copy the formula 27 through 29, D27 through D29. Excellent. We need to double click on D27 because we're going to modify the formula a little bit. We need to edit the criteria argument to display FRL instead of bio right here. I'm going to change it to FRL. Click enter, and I just want to scroll up a little bit. You can see the different departments right here. We're going to be working with IMS and then the physics department, PHY, in a moment. Just want to show you where we're getting this information from. And that completes 10D. If I click back in cell D27, click on it, you can see there's a little triangle error that appears. If we click on the little drop down arrow, it tells us there's an error, and we're going to be fine with that. So what we can do is we can select ignore the error. And that completes step 10F. In 10G, we're going to double click in D28 and edit the argument to display IMS right here. IMS. Going to hit enter, lock it in place, and in D29 it wants us to show the department initials for the next one. So I'm going to double click in D29, and I know that's the physics department, PHY. I'm going to go up there and just double check that that is in fact their initials, but I know it is. Let me just double check up there, PHY. Pretty standard. Okay, and lastly in step 10I, it says format cells D27 through D29. Well, D27 is already, or D26 is already formulated, so I'm going to click D27 through D29. I'm just going to make sure that it's on the currency choice right here. If it wasn't on your computer, it should be now. And that completes step 10. Step 11, we're going to use the sum product and trace an error. So we need to select cell E26. E26 is right there. We're going to click the Math and Trig button. Need to be on the Formulas tab. You know how to do this, Math and Trig. And select Sum Product. That is Sum Product. Excellent. In 11C, it says click the Array 1 and select cells C7 through C9. Need to scroll up a little bit. C7 through C9. You can see it in there. It's the credit hours for the courses in biology department. In Array 2, we're going to select D7 through D9, which is great. Number of sections in biology department. Looking pretty good. Click OK. That's 11E. Should be 98 total credits. In E26, there's a trace error. So we can just click the ignore button right there. And that completes step 11. Step 12, copy and edit SUMPRODUCT. So we need to click E26 and drag the fill pointer down to copy the formula into E27 through E29. You know how to do this one. This one's not too bad at all. That completes 12A. 12B, it says in E27, we need to click the Insert Function button on the Formulas tab, Insert Function. Now we need to change the arrays. So what we're going to do, we need to make sure that array 1 is C10 through C12. That looks good. That's 12C. 12D says we need to change array 2. Let's click in array 2 and make that D10 through D12. Going very slowly through D12. And I should have deleted the old stuff out. So if you messed up, you can simply just delete that out and then click D10 through D12. Click OK. That looks good. And in F, it says do the same for cells E28 and E29. So pay attention here, folks. Click on E28. I'm going to scroll up because we're going to need this. Going to click the insert function. And we need to change array 1 to C13 through C15. You can see this is a different department that we're working with. Array 2, I'm going to highlight that because I'm going to write over that original array. And we need to do D13 through D15. Looking pretty good. Check it out. I like it. Next, we need to do or select E29. And this is the physics department. So I'm going to scroll up, click the function, and an array 1 is ready to be changed for us. We need to click C16 through C18. C16 through C18, that's all the physics department. I'm going to highlight over array 2 because that's going to be deleted. We need to select D16 through D18. I like that. So I click OK. Lastly, in step 12F, we need to ignore the errors. So we can click on it, click ignore error, click on it, ignore error, click on it, ignore error. And that completes step 12. Step 13, we need to select cell G30. Type in equal to and then TO, and that'll get you to today's date. If you hit the tab button, that'll select it. Hit enter, and you should see your current date, not this one, but your current date. That's my current date. So then I hit Control and Home, and I head back up to the Home tab. That completes step 13. Step 14, going to paste range names into a new sheet. So I head down to the bottom. There should be a little plus symbol. I click it, and you should get a new sheet. If I right click over that, one of the choices is rename. And then I type in range names. And then I'm going to click on cell A1. Number 1, that's going to do a few things. Number 1, get me in cell A1. Number 2, lock that in place. So I click on A1. And we're good there. Next, I hit F3, or it could be the function F3 on your computer if it's your laptop and you don't have just the function key there. And we need to paste the names. That's what we have here. Get paste list. And it's in there, and we have a couple columns worth of information. So what we have to do is in between the A and the B, if we double click, it auto fits that particular column. Do the same thing between the B and the C, and that auto fits it. And that completes step 14. Step 15 says to save and close the workbook. Step 16 says to upload and save your project. And 17 will have you submit your project for grading. Best of luck, folks.